If you would, who are you? Where do you live? What kind of work do you do, Jeff?
I am Jeff Domanski, and I live in Beacon, New York, here in the heart of the Hudson Valley. And I am a born and bred Hudson Valley guy. Spent a little time in different places, but was born and raised here and returned here and been living in the Hudson Valley for the last 10 years. And I have been working in what I call the environmental field, the sustainability field, with a large focus on energy for my whole career. So that's going about 30 years now. So I count in when I started my undergrad at the SUNY Environmental Science and Forestry School when I became an environmental chemist.
And what kind of work do you do now? What are you doing? Because I know you do a
So
few different things, but your main thing is.
yeah, I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called the Center for Economic and Environmental Partnership. And it's a long name, but I like it. It really links what I've been trying to do for a lot of years. We've got a few things on our plate. And over the course of my career, I've really worked on focusing. There have been many unfocused years or too many things on the plate. But right now, we've got a few things that we're focusing on. One of them is community energy programs, one in particular called Community Choice Aggregation. And I came to that in a very kind of a beautiful arc based on my interests, which we might get into, I think, as we talk. So we're focused on helping communities and the residents, the members of those communities through this community energy program, which we can talk more about. But I'm also focused on, linked to that, the idea of promoting sustainability through a focus on economic development and workforce development, which includes a lot of elements of education, training that's been part of my career from pretty much from the start too, going all the way back to the early days.
Cool. And tell us one thing that most people wouldn't know about you, Jeff.
Oh, unprepared for that. I, I'm gonna blank for that one. They have to come back. You have to edit this one right out. I have to
That's
come
okay.
back for
That's
that
all
one.
right. Come on, just so people get to know you a little bit. One thing that many people wouldn't know.
I feel like I'm such an open book in so many ways. I'm such a stereotype in so many ways too. I mean, I got a Subaru and a turbo diesel. I got solar thermal on the roof. You know, I'm so stereotypical. Hiking, all that other good stuff. So what is you know what it is? I was going to be an artist, and I still pursue the arts. But I find that's really consistent. That the people in our field, and I wouldn't be surprised if you told me the same, have some relationship with the arts. I just find that it's the type of mindset that people are in. So I was going to be an illustrator. I still paint. I play music. So it's there.
Awesome. See, I knew you could do it, Jeff.
Yeah, I had to think of it.
Yeah, that's great. So you were going to be an artist. I didn't never knew. That's
Yeah, I was going to go to Cooper Union and was hoping to be a political cartoonist, including other things. But so
wow, wow, wow. Very fun. Well, boy, with the perfect time for political cartoonists these days.
yeah, one of the best just retired too. I just got news that a guy named Tom Tolles just retired, and he's a Buffalo syndicated artist, but he's got national reach, and he's just one of the best too.
Yeah, he was great. I know his work from years ago. So yeah, he was really awesome. I didn't realize he retired though. So
Just recently, yeah, very recently. A great final cartoon too.
oh really? I'll have to check it out. Thanks for the note. All right, all right. So why did you go into clean energy, Jeff?
Well, there's a perfect linkage to what we were just talking about. Thought for sure I was going to be an artist in high school, was gearing up, portfolio, going to go to Cooper Union, and then I am of the age where I was in my junior year of high school when James Hansen testified to Congress about climate change for the first time. So that was 1988, and basically that just scared the crap out of me. And it just motivated me. I had been a landscape painter. I had paid attention to the environment and to the landscape. So I had a tendency to be in that mindset, but that was all I needed to hear. Hearing about climate change and what was happening with the ozone layer, I decided I needed to do something about that. And so I went off in pursuit of a degree where, and this has become a bit of a laugh line these days, sadly, and I hope it goes away, but I thought I just wanted to be technically trained. If I was not going to be a scientist, like a lab coat, safety glass wearing chemist, I was going to be somebody who was of the sciences and really understood problems at their core, at their scientific core. And I learned early on, I think it was freshman year, we were told about the communication gap that exists between the technical experts like scientists and the decision makers, like business leaders and politicians. And so I decided then that I was going to work in that gap, but with a really strong technical background. And consistently, that's pretty much what I've done my whole career, is worked to be a navigator or a translator in that gap to really foster good decision making.
Excellent. So tell us about Community Choice Aggregation. What is it? How does it work? And what are you doing with it?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting story about how it came about. And I'll be talking about another organization and kind of praising them as we tell the story. But it came about where this program called Community Choice Aggregation, what it is in a nutshell, it builds on the same principle that's been available to every utility customer in New York State and other deregulated states, where anybody could choose to enter into a contract to pay for the source of electricity or gas, but there's just a focus on electricity here with community choice aggregation in New York State, though gas is allowed. But every customer has had the ability to pay for the sourcing of where that power comes from. Two reasons people would have done that. One, people have entered into agreements with what we call energy supply companies or ESCOs because maybe they were interested in cheaper electricity than they had been paying to the utility, where the utility was the default choice by state mandate. If somebody doesn't take advantage of that marketplace, the utility makes your choice, and the rates vary month to month. So if somebody wanted some certainty and they wanted to get better pricing, they could go out to an ESCO to get into a contract. What a lot of folks who are listening to this also know is that people could go out and get into contracts to promote renewable energy, which pretty much always comes with a higher price tag to date. You know, it was a premium. It's a bit, you know, it has been, though the pricing and the development is getting better, still typically costs more than fossil-based energy production. Community choice aggregation is something that brings those two together in a beautiful win-win and an additional win scenario. It's a program that is enabled by the state. It was enabled by New York in 2016. And it requires by the Public Service Commission order that towns and cities and villages who want to do this on behalf of their members of their communities pass a local law, decide how they want to administer the program, and then go forth to go out into the marketplace with the power of all that demand to get renewable, 100% renewable from New York State, which is part of the requirement of CCA, and get it for less than people have been paying, if you can, on average, than they've been paying for non-renewable energy. But for sure, it's a fixed rate for 100% renewable from New York State for a certain period of time that is certainly a lot less expensive than people would pay on their own in an individual contract for renewable electricity.
Because you're buying in bulk, basically.
You're buying in bulk. And you get all these other benefits that the program administrators bring to this, where you are not in a contract. You could get in or out at any time. There's no weird hidden fees. It is just a simple, I call it a gift that the communities give to their members of their communities because it's very complex out there. And that ESCO marketplace, that energy supply marketplace, has earned a very bad reputation because there are a lot of bad actors out there. So the third win of this program is that there's consumer protection baked into it. It's simple, it's a fixed price, it's a fixed period. You're not, locked into anything. You can opt in and opt out at your will, and you get a team to help you understand what's going on, which I think is so exciting because there's going to be more and more need for that as our energy, as our grid matures into being what it needs to be. There'll be more opportunities, more complexity, but what we get to do is to educate the members of those communities about our current program, but also about what's coming on the horizon and what they should be looking for. So it's really just a great, great thing. I was included in this program. I was asked to be included by one of the 4 approved administrators in New York State because they, and that's Joule, a company called Joule, Joule, based in Westchester, who were very instrumental in setting up CCA in New York State and in helping to launch the first pilot program, which was in Westchester. But they see this as a fantastic springboard. They see this program, CCA, I keep using that acronym, as fantastic in what it is, this buying club. But they want to do so much more, including helping people see additional advantages, but recognizing that it's complex. And it's not only complex, but it's something people don't necessarily want to pay attention to. So it's very important to make it very easy for them and to have a resource to explain it to them So their plan with the state was to include a local nonprofit to be the local program manager, to be there for the life of the program, to answer all questions, to do outreach and education and awareness building, and that's my organization.
Outstanding. So a lot of people don't understand how can they source their electricity? I mean, are they going to lose the utility? What happens, if they're buying wind energy and the wind energy stops? So tell us how it works, Jeff.
Yeah, well, that's a very common question that we get. People are concerned, are you replacing my utility? A lot of people have, an interesting relationship with their utility, but most people are concerned about losing it. They're concerned about reliability. So CCA, Community Choice Aggregation, it is really a financial transaction, but a very powerful one. Physically, there's no physical change in what people experience. They are still a customer of the utility company because since deregulation went into effect in New York in the late 1990s, those utility companies are really only allowed to be delivery companies. They don't make money on supply. They have to go into the marketplace and source electricity or source, gas when they source gas. But what they make money on, just like FedEx or just like UPS, they make money on making sure that energy, that electricity in this case, gets to the customers reliably. So nothing changes in terms of that relationship. The billing is the same. It all happens through their bill. If there's a service disruption, they're still there to do the repair work. And they're there for the customer service for any kind of billing arrangements that are in place. So what happens to CCA is you are channeling, with the help of the utility company, your supply dollars, not the delivery charge, which goes to the utility, but what you pay for supply goes to the companies that are making renewable power in New York State through CCA. And that is very powerful in the immediate to support those companies, but it also sends really wonderful, powerful market signals for more development, to bring more renewables onto the New York grid.
So you've been working with a number of municipalities. So can you give us some examples of people that you've been working with and how's
Yeah,
it
we're
going?
up to, as of this September launch, we're up to 16 active communities right now. We launched in 2019 with a program. The partnership name of the program is Hudson Valley Community Power. So people might have heard of that, but that's a partnership of my organization and Jewel as the administrator. And in that case, the 10 communities that are now partners in that community, in that program, and the supplier that we picked through a request for proposal process. And also actually the community solar companies that we are promoting through the program. One of those additional opportunities that people could take advantage of, which is very exciting for down the road. But of those 10 communities, it includes my own city, Beacon's in it, the city of Poughkeepsie's in it, the town and village of New Paltz are in it, Phillipstown in Putnam County, and Cold Spring, also in Putnam County. The town of Fishkill is in it, Red Hook, the town of Clinton up in northern part of Dutchess County, Marbletown, very important, they were part of the original group, in Ulster County as well. And I think that's getting near the 10. I have to ask one of those communities to forgive me if I forgot one of them. But we also just launched, that program's been alive since July of 2019. So it's been going, we're into the second year of that 2-year contract. But we just launched with the Rockland Community Power Program, which is a partnership of a lot of the same, Jewel and my own organization, but 6 communities. That's actually, in terms of households, bigger than our original program. It's Clarkstown and Orangetown and the villages of Nyack, Upper Nyack, South Nyack, and the village of Haverstraw. And collectively, that's about 40,000 households that on the day this program went live, they were transitioned over to 100% renewable power from New York State. So it's magnificent. It's really cool what it does.
Cool. So are there any downsides? So like what's the pros, what's the cons of a community choice aggregation program? Are there any cons?
The only risk is that we have a fixed rate for supply every month, and the utility rate can vary and does vary. And so we had it set up that we only proceeded if the fixed rate that we got was lower than an average benchmark that people had paid previously. But the rates can fluctuate after that point. And we have seen them fluctuate low in this strange 12 months that we've had in the past, starting with this unusually mild summer last year, which led to lower than expected utility rates. And with the pandemic and the effect on the economy, rates really went low again and have, on a trend that are normal, but still recovering from that low dip. So that's the one risk, is that people might pay more than they otherwise would have paid had they not been part of the program. But that's an apples to oranges comparison too. And even in still, and talking about these fruits, it's like skin thin, the difference really, because our rates are so low. I mean, our program rates are about 6 and 7 cents per kilowatt hour. So they are not crazy by any means. Not like the crazy rates that people have paid to ESCOs for these strange contracts that they've gotten in, which could be 2-3 times that. So you know you're going to be paying this rate, but the rates have gone as low as like 4.5 cents in the utilities. So, you know, there was some difference there, but that is really the only risk. But also, if that has happened, we don't hide. We never hide. We want to be out there and we continue to communicate. And we tell people what's going on with the rates. We publish it, we do presentation. That's very important. No one's ever locked into this thing. So if the rates are low,
yeah, we just lost
oh,
signal
what's
for
that,
a
Ron?
second. So let's go back and just redo that part again,
Oh,
Jeff, because I don't know what happened, but you blanked out for a
sure.
minute. So yeah, go ahead, do that part
Okay,
again.
which part should I pick up from?
Basically, where when the rates go low, start from there if you would.
Okay, so if the rates do go lower, there is still no restriction. So the risk is reduced by the fact that anybody can opt out of this program at any time. And we do lots of outreach. We don't try to hide away and like just hope people don't notice the difference. We are communicating. You know, we're a resource to the community to make sure that they know what's happening, what the program's about, and how it compares to what's happening in the marketplace.
Great. And so compared to an energy service company, because we all get these thousands of calls from these energy service companies wanting to sell us this or sell us that,
Yeah.
and they're offering us this great deal and everything else. But
Yep.
a lot of times those great deals sound great, look great, and then you get baited and switched later, right? Is that what had happened previously?
With a lot of them, and to definitely say there are good companies out there, and even the ones that sort of have escalating rates and their rates might go high, they still offer good customer service. You know, and I won't name any out there, but you know, there are good companies. But what you just described has been way too common. What I found in the literally thousands of points of outreach and contact that we've done with people calling us and talking about the launch of the program, if you haven't had a bad experience in the ESCO marketplace, you know somebody who has. It's that common. And it is what you described. You get in at what turns out to be a teaser rate, and it's fixed for a period of time. And afterwards, when you're not paying attention, you're in a contract and it shoots up. And if you want to get out of it, some of them make it really hard to get out of. They say there's a required period for you to get out of it. You need to put it in writing and get it notarized. And then there's a big fee to get out of it too. So there's lots of bad things that you know, that has caught the attention of the state and other states in terms of consumer protection. And CCA is very much about that. It's very much a solution to protect consumers from the weirdness in the marketplace.
So, okay, so basically, people with the Community Choice Aggregation program get to aggregate their community votes, their legislature, their government, local government votes. They get to then aggregate all their purchases. They join together with other governments. Everybody together works with you, goes out to bid, gets a deal, gets an offer. Everyone then is opted in, so you're automatically part of the program if you live in that community. But then if you want to get out, you can get out, which is
Right.
great, right? And
That's
then
right.
this is purchasing their supply, so they keep their utility. But then the choice becomes what does that supply look like? And that supplier, in your case, is what? What kind of electricity is coming for that supply?
Currently, we only allow 3 types of producers into the program. The state on the CCA order allows a few more, but we only would allow hydropower, wind power, or solar power. And currently, they are now blueprinted to be developed. There is not currently solar selling into CCA programs. So the power is predominantly wind power from New York State and hydropower. And it is, as I understand it, post 2016 developed power. And the hydropower, which, you know, raised my hackles as an environmental science and forestry guy. I was like, wait a second, is this, you know, environmentally sound to do this because of the impacts in ecosystems and the like? As I understand it, all of this is now low impact hydropower institute certified hydropower that's being sold into the program. So that's the current state, and I think it's predominantly hydropower that, you know, more so than the wind power coming in. But what the future looks like is just fantastic and amazing. because of what was included in the New York State budget in 2019 was more than $1 billion for development of renewables and transmission to facilitate renewable development for New York State for exclusive sale of power through CCA programs. So this is really seen as a phenomenal on-ramp for renewables in New York State because of the fact that it's a consumer decision, and it's people, and it's their understanding and their actions. And so that's the beauty of this program, is that we are a community member. We're a partner with the community to make it easier for people to feel comfortable with these decisions.
So, okay, so now I'm part of the Community Choice Aggregation program. I'm getting my electricity from either mostly air or water, hydro or wind power through you
Mm-hmm.
guys. There's an energy service company that delivers to me. Hopefully, I'm getting a discount depending upon where we are in the rates. And then you said there was another offer that people have now with solar, with community solar. Could you describe that, and how does that work, and what the future looks like there?
Yeah, so community solar is it's a different type of financial transaction than what happens with the energy supply companies and what CCA offers. If you're in the CCA, the supply line items on your utility bill change to just one line item for the supply when you're a CCA member within one of these communities. Community solar is a different type of arrangement where you can double your environmental effect in a good way through a different type of financial transaction. So what community solar is if you are someone who does not have solar on your home or business, you can become a virtual owner of a portion of a field of solar that has to be in the same utility territory. So it's really more localized even than CCA is, because CCA has a New York State requirement. Community solar has a utility territory requirement. And there's a number of different models, and there's lots of companies that are banging on doors and making phone calls and sending letters about this. But through our program, it's a simplified model where you join with no upfront fees. You are in a contract whereby you benefit from a relatively simple, and it sounds too good to be true, but a 10% savings on your total electricity charges. They structure the amount of solar that's assigned to you to result, based on your 12-month history of usage, a 10% reduction as a monetary credit at the bottom of your bill for being a subscriber to solar. So it may not be as cost advantage as much as owning solar has been in past years, but that model has been changing over the time. So this is a phenomenal opportunity for people who can't have solar, don't want to have solar, or what I see is that there's a transition happening in installation of solar on homes and businesses. So this is a phenomenal interim strategy, especially because through us, through the, if you will, the handcuffing that we do of the companies that are our partners in this program to protect the consumers, even though it's a 20-year contract, meaning you get that 10% savings every year, every month of every year, basically, of that 20-year contract. But if you don't want to be part of it anymore at any time, you can walk away without penalty. So it's beautiful in that way. So say 3-4 years from now, something changes where there's great incentives for putting solar on your home with battery storage so that you have this beautiful coupled system, and it makes sense for you to do it. Then you can say, I'm done with the community solar. Thank you so much. And that's that. So it's great in that way. Community solar, though, it has been a two-bill situation because the utility companies had resisted doing the pass-through of payments for community solar on their bill. They give the credits to the customers on the bills, but passing the money to the community solar developer, they didn't do. But the state, because of that, it's an additional logistical headache. So it's only been an opt-in for people, coupled with the fact that there's not an can you hear me okay? I see my internet connection is unstable. Does it
Yeah,
sound
you've
okay
been
still?
fluctuating in and out a little bit, so it's
I'm not sure what's
yeah,
going on.
yeah.
I'm
Sorry
in a
if
good
it's
location. I usually don't have any trouble.
yeah, it just happens sometimes. So we'll keep going. Hopefully, it's not a big deal,
All right.
and hopefully, it just is a few things that we can edit out later. But if you would again, just keep going on this community solar piece. So you were starting to say,
Yep. So that it has been a two bill situation, which is a logistical headache, coupled with the fact that it's still developing and there's not an unlimited amount. So it has been an opt in situation where we make people aware of it. We structure an opportunity that's very consumer friendly and a simple 10% savings, so it's easy to understand. But people have to come and do it. They have to opt into it, as opposed to CCA, which is an opt-out program. But
So, so with the opt out, just so everybody
yeah,
is aware, so basically the municipality passes this law. Everybody in that community is in it. That's it. You automatically get switched to the Community Choice Aggregation program and their ESCO, their energy service company, unless you decide you don't want to be, in which case you can opt out. But in community solar, you're not automatically entered into it. You have to take another step. And what do they call you, Jeff? Is that how they sign up, or how do they wind up signing up?
we direct them through the partnership website, yeah, to get into it.
Great.
And I'll talk about the future, the exciting change that's happening because of a state decision last year. But to clarify too, and maybe you could edit this into the right spot for the CCA, you're exactly right in the way you describe it, but it's not ever stand that if you have a third party energy supply company contract, you're automatically opted out. We don't kick you out of your existing arrangement. If you have a block on your account, if you've been annoyed by ESCOs in the past and you told your utility company, put a block on my account, you're not included in the program. If you're in a bill pay assistance program, not budget billing, not levelized billing, but a bill pay assistance program like HEAP, then you're not included in the program either. So there are people who are automatically excluded.
Very good points. Very good
Yeah,
points.
it's only people for whom the utility company is making the supply decision for them. That's not in one of those categories.
Okay, yep. So if you have an existing energy service company in a contract, you're not getting kicked out of that contract. If you're a low-income customer on a supported, subsidized bill, you're
Right.
not getting kicked out of it. And if you have a block so that you don't automatically get kicked by some ESCO, that nasty ESCOs out there, then you don't get automatically into. So thank you for clarifying that, Jeff. Okay, so please now back to community solar. So you were saying there's two bills. So let's say I get a $100 credit on my bill. I then have to pay for the 10% savings. I got to pay $90 as a separate bill, and I keep the 10% savings, but it's two bills right now. It's basically, it gets you the 10% savings, but you get the credit on your utility bill, and then you pay the ESCO, the community solar ESCO, or the community solar supplier for that 90%. Is that how it works?
Exactly as described. Yep. And what you pay is exactly that. 90% of whatever credit it is you receive that month on your bill. And that's how it's averaged out over the year. And they'll adjust if you need to. I can tell you the fun story about when I started driving an electric car. But yes, 10% savings is what it ends up being.
And is it like, so with, I've heard stories where sometimes the solar would pile up a bit, so you'd get allocated your solar, and that would give you a bunch of credits. You'd get the credits, or you'd have to pay for the solar first. But basically what you're saying now is the way the system is structured is that you get the credits, and then you pay the bill, as opposed to, oh, well, you got all this solar, here you go. You got to wait to get the credits.
Were you talking about for a home installation, or are you talking about a model of community
Yeah, I'm talking about
solar?
model community solar program. So in a community solar program, let's say I enter it in the beginning of the summer.
Yes,
I have an allocation
exactly.
every year. Now they allocate me so much of whatever's generated for the summer, but that's more than what I use. So I got to pay for it now and then wait for the credits later. Is that what happens, or?
That is true. That is tends to be, yeah, it generates the credits based on how much you are allotted, which is intended over the course of a full year. So over the course of a year, even though you might in the summertime pay more than you need for your actual production use, they do carry it forward, resulting in, through the calculation they do, that 10% savings.
Okay, so sometimes you might be actually having to pay a little bit ahead so that you can get the savings later. But one way or the other, over the year, you're going to wind up with the 10%.
Right. And they'll
Okay.
work with you to make sure that it works out that way. Now, here's my
Okay.
little story, because I signed up with the company back in February 2018, long before the CCA kicked in Beacon. And I had a certain 12-month history at that point in time. The project was taking a while to get all its subscribers. It finally kicked in the following fall, right about the same time that I started driving an electric car and charging it at home. And so when I got my first bills through that first 4 or 5 months, I was saving a lot less than 10% because my usage was so much higher. So I called them up, as customers can do in these arrangements, and say, hey, I'm driving this electric car, my usage is way high. They looked at my history based on that usage, and they reassigned an additional portion to me to get back to that. So the best way to phrase it, that I think, is they target 10% savings. So there's that little fluctuation. There's a difference in what happens between winter months and summer months, but it is a targeting of 10%.
Great. All right. I think I got it. And then you were saying there's something that's in the wind, a change that's a coming that makes it a little bit different for community solar. So why don't you talk about that if you would?
Yeah, so more and more projects are being built, not least because they see a reliable demand pool through growing numbers of community choice aggregation communities where there is more comfort and ability to get to these customers and a coupled relationship through CCA. But a very important thing that happened was in December of last year, December of 2019, the state said to the utilities, you got to stop this two-bill situation. You got to consolidate the billing. And that's the term, it's consolidated billing, where they will do the credit and the payment through to the community solar developer. So everything will happen through the one single utility bill, which is a big game changer because logistically it reduces that headache that people have to do about setting up a different payment arrangement for that. But that is facilitating, that is allowing now, it's not even a theory, it's something that Juul wanted to do right from the get-go when they filed their implementation plan way back when. But the minute that consolidated billing went into effect in National Grid territory upstate, they launched a pilot program with 2 communities doing opt-out community solar. So you say, community solar sounds great. Why wouldn't you just include that automatically? Well, that's what Juul wants to do. And that's what they're doing. And we'll be doing more of that down here when we anticipate in early 2021, Central Hudson and other local utilities will consolidate the billing. So we're in conversation with communities right now to identify which communities on mass as a whole, or if they're a really big community, what portion of that community maybe will be automatic opt-out consumers for the program. So it just you get the 2 programs coupled together, so you double the impact in terms of environmental benefit and pushing more renewables onto the grid in a very sharp way.
Fantastic. So people will be, and you can be, with your community choice aggregation program. You can be with an ESCO, and that supply of electricity is now water and hydro, and hydro and wind. And then meanwhile, you can also either sign up right now, anybody can sign up in a CCA for a community solar project. And you can sign up for a community solar project even if you're not in a CCA, by the way, that's depending on your utility territory. But you could sign up for a community solar project, and in 2 territories up in National Grid and eventually in all territories throughout the state, you'll also be able to, in addition to having this fixed price electricity from wind and water, you'll be able to have community solar as part of that, and between all of them, you'll have a 10% savings on the community solar piece and whatever the fixed price is for the rest. Is that the idea?
That's it. You got it. Well described.
Sweet. So what's your next? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just, and on that CCA side, to finish that story about what was represented in the nerd that I am, getting goosebumps talking about the 2019 New York State budget, there will be solar coming online. There are solar projects, large-scale solar projects that will be built for powering CCA community members. And there are the transmission lines for the offshore winds that we know is probably the biggest resource we have for New York State. So hydropower, even if it's decent hydropower, will become less and less of the mix that's available for CCA communities. So it's really exciting.
Really exciting. It's really tremendous. In New York State, folks, about 20% of the electricity has been coming from hydropower for a long period of time. Yeah. And wind has been adding another 3 to 5%, I think we're up to. And that offshore wind is another whole chunk of 5 to 10,000 megawatts worth of wind that we're going to be moving on. And then meanwhile, 3 to 5,000 megawatts worth of solar, both large-scale solar, small solar. It's an exciting time with a goal of, Jeff, what's the is it the Community Choice? No, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. The CLCPA goal is 100% renewable electricity by
20. What did we get it down to now, man? All the years are flying around. Is it 2040? Is it 2020? I know there's 100% decarbonized. 100%. You got to help me.
Yeah, I know. I think it's 2040, right? 100%.
2040. Yeah.
Is it 2040 or 2030? I think.
I think it could be up to 2030. I need my cheat sheet to keep up to it to make sure I know.
Got to go back. I know, but great goals and basically getting to 100% renewables and clean heating and clean transportation. Actually, 85% all across the board with 15% reduction from efficiency by 2050. So yeah, fascinating time, great goals, and lots to do, boy. All right, so Jeff, what's your next step?
We're cooking away on being a resource to these communities and the more value that we can bring. As I mentioned, we've got this phenomenal opportunity, these relationships with communities. And so we want to build on that to be of value to them. So for example, one of the things we're doing in the education outreach, we're developing courses to make it easier for people to understand what's going on. We developed with Central Hudson in partnership with them, our version of a how to understand your utility bill course. And we're going to be doing that with Orange and Rockland in the new year when they finish revising their bill. So the new version of their bill, we're going to do that course. But we're also doing probably a 3-level course that I'm calling The Grid, which is, because everything we've talked about is there's a lot of people really curious and want to know, how does this really work? What am I paying for? What are these logistics? Am I going to have unreliable power? What is the CLCPA? What is this all? So that's part of the Grid course, so people can really understand what these programs mean, the financial transactions, the physical transactions of what's bringing this power on, which I think is just so important, as I said before, because so much is happening and so much more is going to be happening, where people are going to be, as we move towards a more distributed grid and we get home power and storage systems, they should be not only educated consumers, but they might be educated producers in this system. So we're working on enhancing that. We're also working on what I'm calling the internship matchmaker and management program, which is really the idea that, I guess from firsthand experience of trying to find my way in the world in this career, have a real sympathy for the idea that there is so much support needed to bring the workforce up to speed that we need, and fantastic, sharp people that want to work in this field. And so what we're doing as an organization now is matchmaking between early career professionals, either in school or just recently out of school, to focus primarily on municipal projects or nonprofits that have projects where they're looking for interns, and not free interns, because that's part of sustainability. I think everyone needs to make a sustainable living. So that's the beauty of what we're doing in this third party role, is that we're not only matchmaking them, but having worked with a number of early career professionals, for the benefit of the project owners and for the early career professionals, what we're doing is we're managing that experience as well, to make sure that they have a good experience. And for the project owners, for those municipalities and the nonprofits, we make sure, like a relay race, we're passing the baton. We know there'll be turnover. So part of what we build into this is good project management, so that their projects can keep moving forward and more work can be done, and more internal capacity and knowledge and ability is built in the early career professionals, but also in these project owners, these cities and towns and villages and nonprofits, so that they can do more of the sustainability work that needs to be done. It's just part of the catalyzing of activity that I think is so important, and it really comes down to helping build the hands that we need to build to do this work.
Excellent, outstanding. We've done a couple shows, one of which was with Bob Key for the Environmental Entrepreneurs, or E2, talking about how there's 3.4 million Americans working in clean energy today, which is triple the number of Americans working in the fossil fuel industry. People don't realize it. It's exponential growth, and it's a tremendous opportunity for our young people. So it's not just the environment, it's not just saving money, it's also creating a prosperous economy. And then there's justice pieces that come in there too, where we can actually do this work with people who really need the jobs most. So it's giving people the work that most needs to be done to the people who most need the work as well. And the training programs are just key. So great job, Jeff. Thank you so much. All right. Like to step back for a second. A lot of times, all of us have gone through our ups and our downs. And what we find sometimes is in our worst moments, we get this realization that helps then decide and turn our lives. So what has been your worst clean energy moment, Jeff, and what did you get out of it?
Worst clean energy moment. Let's see, what would be the perfect revelation of a worst clean energy moment? I'd say it was kind of the arc of the career. It was a bit of an extended, bad moment, where I'd worked for a number of years as a technical resource, a technocrat of source, and recognized that we were not changing the world. I was in the Peace Corps, where I kind of expanded on my ability to communicate on scientific and technical concepts. Came back and literally pounded the pavement, worked in New York City at a consulting firm for that's more than 6 years. Interesting aside, one of the clients of our environmental planning and consulting firm was Donald Trump, helping him with one of his buildings, recognized very clearly back in the mid 90s that that was not changing the world. So was inspired to go on and had worked for the, in the decision making and had that kind of like realization or that expectation about the perception of scientists and technical experts as just being up high on a pedestal, that people would listen to us if we spoke. Recognize that there was more things that people listened to, and that money, economics, policies, and politics are really important. So off I went to grad school to put more tools in the toolbox, and I was hoping that would do it. I went to the nonprofit version of an MBA. I went to a Master's in Public Administration program. I got an MPA, P being public, and thought this is great. 2 years, little hiatus mid-career, and I'll put these tools and I'll get back out there and I'll work in that gap and help everyone understand things. And had early in the first semester of that 2-year program, had a guy walk into our class. And this is the thing, I went from a very, very proud SUNY ESF graduate, love that school, love what they're doing. But there's some, major advantages that come of going to an Ivy League. So I went to an Ivy League grad school. And so in walked a Nobel Prize winner, a psychologist who won his Nobel Prize in economics. And he's like, everything you think you understand about the way people operate, you're all wrong. So that led to my doctoral studies in behavioral economics, in essence. And so I think that was significant. That it was just a total transition from thinking of, about the impact I thought I was going to have into realizing that there was more tools that were really needed in that toolbox. And so with the kind mercies of my wife, who was my wife at the time, she tolerated my extended stay in graduate school, which was fantastic in many ways, because I ended up starting the sustainability office at Princeton during that time too, and got to play with the use of behavioral strategies. So that was, I think, and I was working on energy issues and had assumptions about energy issues. So that was the kind of the rough awakening that led to a lot more years of semi-poverty. But I think it's well invested. I've become an evangelist to talk about these behavioral strategies and how they should be applied into the space.
Great. And how about an aha moment, a time when you got it and was like, aha, and that took you to the whole nother level?
It's, I hate to double up, but it's that same thing. I think it was an aha. It was a sad realization of a bad moment about my perceptions about the way people think about and would act on environmental and energy issues. But that was also coupled with that aha moment that's really had impact in moving forward.
Okay. All right, we're going to enter into the Pulsar round, where we ask you to have short, succinct, amazing, and mind-blowing answers to these questions, Jeff. And actually, we got to keep it short because we're going to run out of time. So here we go. What's the best advice you ever received?
Low expectations. Have low expectations.
There you go. Great one. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success, sir.
Good record keeping. Learn that one early on. Saved my butt. If you have a fantastic memory, God bless you. But if you have an okay memory like I do, keep your records, make it easy to find, always evolving in how I do it. But good record keeping is just so important. Good project management, I think, is really what that's part of.
Excellent. Detail oriented. Very good. Keep those records. An internet resource you'd like to share?
Living on Earth is a great program. It's a podcast and an internet resource. I think is just fantastic, that I can't recommend enough in terms of storytelling, because storytelling is so important, and that's Community Choice Aggregation is a story. So I think, if you don't spend time on Living on Earth, and it's a great way to get supercharged for a lot of the news you might have missed, but done in such a beautiful way.
Living on Earth. Thank you very much. Book you'd recommend?
I would recommend Nudge. It's a book that is written by one of the guys who won the Nobel Prize in economics in 2017, a guy named Richard Thaler, wrote it with Cass Sunstein, and it's a New York Times bestseller, and it's just a fantastic entree into understanding behavioral economics.
Excellent. Nudge.
Or Predictably Irrational. I recommend that one because it's a guy who's down at University of North Carolina, Dan Ariely, and he is very funny. He's great.
Predictably Irrational, huh?
Yeah, good books.
Great, awesome, thank you. All right, if you had a magic wand, you can wave it to change one thing for everybody in the world, what would it be?
Well, we just had an election, and things are looking good, so I don't think I have to waste it on that one right now. Oh, wow, magic wand and wish. I feel like I should have a good answer for this one immediately. I would, um, I don't know. Let me come back to that one.
Okay.
Pass.
All right. How about a weather time fudge or a weather time fun story? It's got to be quick though, because we're running out of time. WTF or F? So an extreme weather event and what happened, or the most fun you've ever had and the type of weather it was at the time.
Phenomenally downpouring experience of hiking the Adirondacks just taught me about the beauty of just being immersed in it. And that's kind of like an analogy for so many things. You know, you would think that it would be terrible to be soaking wet on an extended hike, but man, it was just a torrential downpour with terrible fog, and we were soaked and we just gave into it. You know, we didn't try to run and hide and just kind of worked right through it. So it's the power of just trudging through, and then kind of the beauty of the reward too. I guess it's a thankful, because we hiked up this mountain over Avalanche Lake and looked down and the clouds broke in intermittent periods. And so those little glimpses of the lake and the surrounding mountains and that terrible, thankfully not a lightning storm, just a torrential rain downpouring was a fantastic experience. And I kind of look for that again, that where you just kind of like give it all up and you just go for it.
Beautiful. Nice. Okay. What's the one thing that you're most energized about today, Jeff?
It is in being that crazed evangelist about behavioral strategies. It is just starting to be used by the people in our field. These concepts have been used to sell us sugared cereal and plastic things for years on end. And it's only in the last real decade or so that it's really starting to take practical applications in policy and program design and other simple solutions that are so powerful, so inexpensive, and it really enhances the way people can engage with these concepts. So I'm really, crazed over the moon about that.
Outstanding. All right. Grand finale. Piece of parting advice. And if you want people to get a hold of you, how they can do it.
Parting advice is to remember that we are storytelling animals. And so if you want somebody to be moved by what you know, tell a story. So I think that's really essential. And that is how we remember, and that's what motivates us and moves us. And so that's a really worthwhile effort. And if you want to get in touch with me, the program email that we're using for the CCA program is the best one right now. So contact me at jeff@hudsonvalleyenergy.org. And, I think that's the best way to get me. That's also our website, hudsonvalleyenergy.org. So visit us there. And I've got a great team working with me. It's bilingual, which I think is so important for the work that we're doing. Look forward to connecting with anybody who'd want to talk more about this.
Outstanding. Anything that we missed that you wanted to say?
Magic wand question. What would I do with a magic wand? I think, I'm just in that father. I just want to just put a bubble around my kids in a very unobtrusive way, just to protect them, because they're phenomenal people. I've got 2 kids, and I can't wait to see the impact they have on the world. So that's what, as a dad, I would do with a magic wand.
Magic wand to protect all our kids. And isn't that what we're all striving to do here with clean energy, is make this transition so our kids have a place to live, babe. So, hey, Jeff, thank you so much for your great. Really appreciate it. Hopefully this was okay with you.
Great. You gave me goosebumps with that last statement, man. That was a beautiful little transition there. That was great.
All right.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much.